Hi everyone, we're gonna do a little recap on double entry because this tends to be extremely important in accounts and it's also an area where some students tend to struggle a bit. So we're gonna take a look at the double entry system, just a little breakdown on it. Okay, so when we're looking at double entry, this is a type of system that is typically used in accounts, right? So businesses will use this type of accounting system in which whenever a transaction occurs in business, and just a recap, a transaction is any financial activity, whenever that happens, they would make an entry in two accounts. So you would remember your different types of assets, liabilities, and capital accounts. So that means that each transaction would affect any of those accounts, right? So we would have a debit entry in one account and a credit entry in another account. So then when we're looking at the account itself, it is understood by now that every account would have a debit and a credit side. And it's usually just remembering and identifying these sides that tend to be really important and go a long way in terms of helping you understand the topic. So if we were to look at the account itself, so we know that a ledger account is like a giant T account, and a separate video would be done on ledgers and T accounts and recording transactions. We have the fact that the right hand side of any account is always known as the credit side, and the debit side is the left hand side of any account. So we have a visual representation here just to give you an indication of how that would look, right? So we have debit side, left hand side, credit side, right hand side. So when we're recording a transaction, we would record on either the debit or the credit side. And of course, when we're looking at the account itself separately, we know that based on the account that we're looking at, it would increase or decrease on either or side. So getting yourself just accustomed to the side of the account, you could always use your hands to help you remember, right? So you could always remember that your left hand is the debit side of the account, the right hand is the credit side of any account. So that would go a long way in terms of helping you remember the sides of the account so you won't mix it up. Okay, and to just sum up essentially what double entry is looking at, is that whenever we are looking at double entry, whenever we are recording transactions, we already identified earlier that every transaction would have a debit and a credit entry. So in double entry, we're going to use two accounts. Most of the time, it's two accounts to record a particular transaction. And in each account, we would have a debit entry. And then in the other account that was used, we will have a corresponding credit entry to complement that. Then that means that, and of course, based on how the accounts work and looking at all rules of double entry that usually govern each of the accounts, we would never end up in a situation where we have two debits or two credits. We will always have a debit and a credit entry. So that brings us to the end of today's lesson. I hope that double entry was made a bit easier for you all, and don't forget to follow us.